to me, it makes sense that we'll have two coexisting internets, one for internet for transacting information, one internet for transacting value. And for me, success is when like our mothers or family who use a transaction and it uses the blockchain network, they don't know and they shouldn't know. And we're getting there. So I think we're nearly there. And if you remember, the internet was opened up in '92. Up until '92, it was a research-only network, and then World Wide Web happened in '94, and all the killer applications came out. So I think email was the first one.
So in the early days of computing, if we were on the same mainframe and I wanted to send you a message, it was pretty straightforward. I would just leave the message, and when you logged on, you would get it. It was still pretty easy when we were on the same network. There was a simple protocol to send it from my machine to your machine if we were on the same local area network. It started to get a little more complicated when there were different networks, maybe we were on different operating systems. You would actually have to specify the route from computer to computer to reach someone else's machine. And then if one of those machines was down in the middle, your email would get lost. It was sort of this big mess. Like no one knew if the mail would get there or not. And this all changed when in 1982, when someone came up with what's called the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, or SMTP. And SMTP is this open interoperable standard that anyone can adopt, right? And so the beauty of it is now people who run mail servers, for instance like Gmail or Yahoo, they don't have to have formal relationships with each other, right? They don't even really have to know about each other. The protocol, they just have to adopt the protocol and then the mails can flow, right?
Introducing Quant Flow.
Hello everybody, so glad to be back once again with Jesse over at Apex Crypto Consulting. It's been awesome doing these collaborations with him. We're going to jump into some brand new Quant network news I think you really need to pay attention to, because let's face it everybody, Quant is so in thick with everybody and everything. When we talk about API integration, API everything, it really truly is. So consider smashing that like if you haven't done so already. It really helps obviously both channels. And again, we understand for a lot of you guys, we got to earn that like or earn your subscription. Hey, we discovered in the analytics, a lot of you guys are regulars, but you're not subscribers. Why not just take that jump? But we get it. You might not want to do that. We do appreciate you. But again, let's get into the material.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. So just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
First thing we're going to pull up is actually from what is referred to as IBC 2025. Now it's IEEE. Now, even with my Jasmine research, I have cited IEEE so many times, right? Especially with Tadashi Morita and his patents. I want you guys to check out this because this is really something else. In the new developments, shout out to Quant Papa once again, we have this. And as you see here, it mentions specifically these key things. I'll try to blow it up even that much more bigger. So it's the conference that's going to happen on June 2nd through the 6th. This is going to happen in Pisa, Italy, about IEEE International Conference on Blockchain and Cryptocurrency. There's a workshop. Now, some of you guys may feel like, oh, well, so what? Trust me, it's worth your attention. So, for one, the workshop aims to bring researchers and practitioners from across the world together to advance the field of cross-chain technology. Let that soak in. On top of that, they have these topics of interest, not limited to, but some of these, about cross-chain protocols, mechanisms, applications, of course, the bridges, the digital assets. But what really caught my attention was, for example, where you see CBDC protocols, where you also see the whole thing about roll-ups, because we know about when it comes to EVM sidechains, and we know about layer 2s. Those are basically like some of your roll-ups. But what is also mentioned here about modular design and cross-chain architectures. And last but not least, where it says vulnerability attacks, mitigation, and cross-chain mechanisms. Now, we know, Jesse, that recently the one and only Gilbert Verdian has pointed out specifically the announcement about what happened with Coinbase. And he even gave Brian Armstrong some recent praise in that regard. But it's like moving forward, he has a call to action saying, look, just reach out to us. We have a legitimate solution moving forward that will protect you and so on. So to see some of this be posted over there on IEEE is a big deal. Now you may be wondering, like, well, you just cited something from IEEE. I didn't see no mention of Quant network being there. I hear you. I see where you guys coming from. Well, guess what? Let's get back into it, because when we do, as the saying goes, boom, boil it, mash it, stick it in stew. What you see here is specifically at Workshop Technical 2 session, you have, for example, adapting the secure asset transfer protocol for secure cross-network asset exchange. And this gentleman, who I have some research about him, is Kjell-Erik Marstein. I imagine he's probably Dutch, if I'm not mistaken. And while I don't have the deepest of deep dives about him, I don't think anybody really knows about this guy. So he's kind of like, just like Jesse. He's the new kid on the block, right? He's part of the Quant network. But again, this is important to get into, because also at the same time, you see some other key participants from the United Kingdom. You see, for example, Dr. Luke Riley from the Quant network. So that's big. That's worth sharing, because again, you want to see some of the Quant participants at the biggest get-togethers when it comes to workshops, working on the Internet of Trust, and if anything, providing their own type of value. Now, I decided to look more into this, and from what I saw, what really stands out when it comes to specifically Kjell-Erik Marstein is some of this. And basically, as I blow this up for you, from besjournals.com online library, you see citation about ECKOchain, a fair blockchain-based database for long-term ecological data. You see him mentioned on the top left, and he has some publications, to say the least. Now, what was really interesting to me is this thing called ECKOchain, because it's a proof of concept ecological blockchain-based database created with the Hyperledger Fabric framework. Well, we know about Quant and Hyperledger Fabric. We know about Quant. Overledger 2.0 had full Hyperledger Fabric and Hyperledger Besu integration. So it says, while metadata and access policies are distributed to all network members, primary data remains with data owners and are served on demand to approved parties according to their specified usage licenses. Details of data requests are preserved indefinitely on the blockchain. All right. Through what, though? Well, through something that would have the function to be auditable. Think about Quant with authorize. All right. As we get further into this thing about ECKOchain and why it matters to you. Well, in this publication a while back from Eric Marstein, right, dating back to 2024, talks about a fair blockchain-based database for long-term ecological data. I mean, say what you want, whether you're a fan of some of this stuff and whatnot, it's interesting to see where they go with this. So it says here that this specifically is a specialized protocol that ensures agreement in the network before new data is accepted, and no entity can single-handedly alter existing data. They introduce ECKOchain, a proof of concept ecological blockchain-based database created with Hyperledger Fabric framework. Does this have something to do with, for example, carbon credits or going green? I think so, but whether we're fans of this or not, it seems as though whether it's Hedera, Quant, Stellar, and so on, they have a want and need for this. All right, so just briefly, what is a little bit more about the significance of ECKOchain? Because if anything, you may be wondering, like, what would this have to do with like Quant network? I get where you're coming from. ECKOchain's blockchain-based database designed to address challenges in managing long-term ecological data, emphasizing open science and, of course, transparency. When I hear these terms about science, I'm also thinking where Quant Network has mentioned a lot about, for example, machine learning, AI, so on and so forth. But I like to mention that it mentions in regard to reusability and scalability. Their infrastructure allows new initiatives to coexist on the same ledger. What about a unified shared ledger? It says, with adaptable smart contracts supporting diverse data types and use cases, this makes ECKOchain versatile. Okay, because it has audibility, transparency. Now, we know that there could be a collaboration, but there was no mention of that, at least yet. Now, here's what's interesting about, again, why I tie some of this to you guys. So, even on a search, when you were gonna, if you're gonna ask Grok, for example, like how much would ecology on blockchain be worth by 2030? Well, it's kind of hard to measure, right? But according to this, from the data from Grok, it mentions the global blockchain tech market was valued about 26.91 billion in 2024 and projected to reach 1.4 billion to 1.8 billion by 2030 in regard to this specific sector. That's a compound annual growth rate from 52% roughly to 90%. So that is a big deal. And of course, there's many applications that could be mixed into the bigger picture. Again, I'm not a big fan of the carbon credit thing, but I realize the potential of it. But it mentions these specifically. So for one, with the whole thing of ECKOchain, if you want to call it that, you of course have the carbon credits. You have tokenized sustainable assets, such as what's mentioned here, green bonds, renewable energy. But it mentions decentralized energy markets. Earlier we were talking about energy web token on the X space, and it mentions here that the United Nations estimates 650 billion annually is needed for renewable energy financing, and blockchain could capture a portion, of course, of that market. Well, what about regenerative finance? Nobody talks about that for the most part, but emerging field uses blockchain to fund the ecosystem, restoration, and renewable energy products or projects with tokenized assets like forests or clean water gaining traction. Okay, so why would Quant want to get mixed in with something like this? Well, that's a good question, because when we get into it, you see from INATBA, this gentleman, that's who he is. Kjell-Erik Marstein, part of the Quant network. And even when you get further into him, this is where, in my opinion, where I'm going to have Jesse come in, because even from Google Scholar, you see here he's been part of a consortium of researchers, such as writing this thing back in 2021 of a blockchain-based architecture for securing electronic health record systems, incentivizing open ecological data using blockchain tech, implementing secure bridges, I like that term, learnings from the secure asset transfer protocol. And oh, by the way, was he not only part of that himself with a couple other key people? Yeah, he was also part of it with who? Alex Chirac, Dr. Luke Riley, Thomas Harjano from the IETF, and even Gilbert Verdian. I think that's a big deal moving forward. And if anything, this is where I want to kick it over to you, sir, because the way I look at it is clearly Quant wants to hit every single aspect. They want to get thick in the mix with everything, not just the central banks of the world. They want to blanket the entire world moving forward, because as you have mentioned, as I have mentioned, they are a blockchain operating system connecting the entire world moving forward and being put on chain.
Well, they're not gonna. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me, buddy. I really appreciate it. Quant's not gonna have to work very hard to be involved in everything, because there's no other solution. If you want to put everything on the blockchain and you want to use all of the benefits that blockchain has, you can only do it with Quant. So that's why I think everybody's running to Quant. The major players, pretty much everybody knows that Quant is the true solution. They created Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, which is literally the re-architecturing of the internet with MIT and the IETF. I mean, that's next level, because MIT and IETF are responsible for the creation and maintenance of the internet we have today. So it doesn't go higher up than that. And then you've got Gilbert Verdian creating the TC 307 ISO standard, like 5 years before anybody even knew that we needed standards, interoperability standards, and standardizing that at an international level. I mean, the guy's next level. And so Quant's the only solution that allows all of these big energy companies and commercial banks and central banks and tech companies, no matter who they are, they all have legacy systems. Quant's the only solution that exists that allows all of these systems to connect into multiple blockchains as well, connect to multiple blockchains at the same time, and build what are called multi-chain applications. So any solution you're seeing, a true solution, they have to use Quant. It doesn't, like, there's no other way. And even if there was a solution that would be able to build multi-chain applications aside from Quant, even if there was one, which there is not any, but if there was, even if we had a solution that could build multi-chain applications using the best features of each blockchain, which is what we really need in order to get global adoption of blockchain and really see it flourish. Even if we had that, aside from Quant, we still wouldn't be able to connect to legacy systems, which is all of the systems that exist, because all of these, like all the energy grids and everything that's operating right now, these are all legacy systems that cannot communicate to the blockchain. So you'd still need Quant to connect all of those systems to blockchain so that you can build these solutions. Like these grids, these massive energy grids, these commercial banks, central banks, whether you're talking global trade, supply chain management, healthcare, all of these different markets, all of these different what's the word I'm looking for here? All these different sectors, they cannot shut off their systems to connect to blockchain. They can't shut off for a month or 2 or 3, like Gilbert Verdien explained. So these systems need to be able to connect to blockchain and build these solutions. These are massive grids, massive energy systems, massive, like I said, supply chain management, data, everything. It needs to be able to connect seamlessly, and only Quant provides that. So that's why you're seeing Quant involved in absolutely everything. And they're setting the standards globally as well. I mean, they're steering the central banks and the Financial Stability Board and the IETF, the ISO, the BSI, British Standards Institute, or whatever. I think it's the British Standards Institute. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but the BSI and the ISO are the main global standard setting body in the world. You see Gilbert and Quant's team just steering everything. Like they're at the top of the top. Like it's just insane. It's so next level. It's so that's why you see him involved in everything. And like I said, they're working hard. Don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to give an expression to say, like, they don't need to work hard to get everybody at table, because there's no other solution.
Like the summary of that. Thank you so much for that, Jesse. We're going to pull up a little bit more about this and why it matters to you guys. So for one, you're going to see this next part, okay, of why we cite some of this. So again, back from this publication that Kjell-Erik Marstein was part of, along with Alex Chirac, Luke Riley, Thomas Sergiano, Gilbert Verdien, right? This dates back from May 5th, 2023, about implementing secure bridges, learnings from the secure asset transfer protocol, okay? So for one, if you want the quick synopsis of why we share this with you, it's pounding home what Jesse just mentioned. Because in the description, it mentions specifically that securely transferring tokenized assets between largely non-interoperable blockchain networks is a great challenge to take on. Well, think about this. Who is really taking that on at the forefront? Quant Network. Implementations must coordinate transactions on multiple blockchain networks. Think about this term. Implementations. What about integrations? What about API integrations? Your Makes, your Zapiers, your Pipedream, and more recently, your Whippies. Okay? So that must coordinate transactions on multiple blockchain networks. That means having a thing that's inherently different with characteristics and functionality, but moreover, implementations must coordinate transactions in strict order in an atomic, synchronized way. Man, oh man. I mean, come on, Jesse. Jeez, man. Like, you literally just said that in our last video. You said that to the T in our last video about atomic settlement. Take it away, brother.
So the secure asset transfer protocol, they're literally re-architecturing the internet, because Gilbert Verdien knew well, I think, and he even wrote a big article, I think it's like 15, 20 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's 20 years ago, where Gilbert Verdien talked about how the internet was not secure. And because when the internet was created, it was not meant for moving value on the internet. So he had the idea to re-architecture the internet, and he was saying that at the time the Bitcoin, that's what he says, but that's very questionable. He says that the technology didn't exist, and he's saying that Bitcoin white paper came out in 2010, and now the technology was possible to re-architecture the internet, so on. Like I mentioned earlier, I know the white paper came out in 2010, but the white Bitcoin was definitely created way longer before by the most powerful 3-letter agency in the world. If you Google search David Schwartz Bitcoin patent, he was working for the most powerful 3-letter agency in the world. And at the time, he was given technically the Bitcoin patent, but that's another story. Just to say, like, Bitcoin was not really invented in 2020. But anyways, Gilbert Verdian explained how the technology in 2010 was now available so that he could re-architecture the internet. And Secure Asset Transfer Protocol is they're literally re-architecturing the internet so the internet can handle the movement of digital assets. It's insane that they're doing, like, he approached the IETF and MIT and said we need to do this, and they're like, yeah, you're right, of course he's right, because like, he's the GOAT. Like, my goodness, Gilbert Verdian. Next level. So they create Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, and you can move any asset from one network to another, but you need an API gateway. And technically, my understanding, the only API compliant API gateway right now is Quant Overledger. And so you're hosting API gateways. Like, eventually, when we can finally, well, they call it staking, but it's a bit different with Quant Overledger. You're hosting, you're using your QNT to host a gateway. And so once that finally comes for general public, once we can do that, we're going to be able to use our QNT and host a gateway so that we can get paid every time a token moves from one network to the other using the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. Like, we become that door with our QNT, which is just absolutely insane. And atomic settlement is not necessarily mean going from one asset to another. It just means it's absolute, either the transaction settles completely or it doesn't settle at all. You're not going to have like a partial transfer of value or anything like that. It's either you're going to settle completely or it's not going to settle at all. And that's the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. It's absolutely mind-boggling. They're re-architecturing the internet, and Quant's team is sitting like chair, co-chair. They're literally guiding the whole project. Literally, they're sitting at top levels of this Secure Asset Transfer Protocol committee. And who do we have in the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol? When you look at the list of entities that are in there, it's just absolutely insane. You've got the NSA, the CIA, IBM, Microsoft. It's the most powerful tech companies, most powerful intelligence agencies, the universe. Everybody is in there, and Quant is literally on top of that, chairing this protocol. And I think it's not Luke Riley. Is it Luke Riley or one of the other Quant guys that literally wrote the first paper on the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, the original draft? It was, I forget who it was from Quant, but it was Quant that literally wrote the original draft of the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. It just mind-boggling, like, so next level. The whole team is just insane. Like, when you look at Luke Riley, and like, the whole team is just, I mean, I don't know who has a team similar to that aside from Ripple. I mean, Ripple is more like people in very prominent positions within the system and governments, and like David Schwartz, stuff like that. I mean, they're next level too, obviously. But the XRP, the Ripple team and the Quant team, I mean, it's just like, it's almost wrong to have teams like that. Like, it's just absolutely insane. And when you look at the advisors for Quant as well, like CEO of Comcast and former, like the head of the Rockefeller Foundation. I mean, my goodness, like, just tell us it's game over, without telling us it's game over, right? So, not financial advice, but my goodness.
Something I want to highlight here about why we talk about SATP so much. So, several protocols for cross-network asset transfer, for example, the bridging of assets, they do exist. It's not like we're saying that they don't. But several production bridge implementations exist. However, frequent high-profile security breaches have arguably given bridges a bad reputation. I would agree. Therefore, there is a clear need for standardized bridge protocols to reestablish trust. Again, back to what Jesse is always talking about with Quant and the Internet of Trust. So, one initiative for standardizing cross-network bridges is, of course, SATP, Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. A little bit more about this. So this guy, call him the new kid on the block, Kjell-Erik Marstein. He has this that he kind of wrote up, right, back dating to March 2023. I mean, him, Gilbert, Luke Riley, and so on, right? But when I look at like how this was all made, well, if you look into the templates of Quant Network from the Quant Developer Hub, basically you see this expanded upon, right? So they had to kind of throw some drafts together, to say the least. And as we get further into this, you're going to see some other key things that maybe you never seen ever. I don't know. Whatever the case be, it's the orchestration of how this all comes together. And so they want to show proof, if you will, of how this all goes from off-chain, okay, to on-chain, that you see in the middle, to literally online. And that orchestration of how it all comes together. You can't have any doubt whatsoever moving forward about where this goes. Because again, the era of the 90s, yeah, Internet of Information, even into the 2000s, excuse me, that's significant. But what's also even that much more significant is this next era. People call it Web 3. Like right now, in reality, we're in 2.5, Web 2.5. So you have to have that trust. You can't have cases of, you know, this got hacked or that got hacked, especially if we're moving to the digital age moving forward. Gilbert Verdon, with over 20 years of cybersecurity experience, I think has a firm understanding of what's needed here. And even if we get into the next part of this, again, this new kid on the block, client application, gateway application, bridge smart contracts, and even when we go to make.com, we see how it all came together. We've kind of been there, done that, right? But this was all written. I think that's important, especially moving forward with the IEEE and this particular conference. That's 2 days, right? Or actually more than that. Was it June 2nd through the 4th or 2nd through the 6th? Whatever the case be, Quant Network at the forefront. Now, earlier, we did mention the whole thing about integration, and we did mention the whole thing of like an ecology, right? So does Quant have any examples of Quant Overledger integration with something like this particular example? Like it says, prompt, edit, and deploy AI agents connect to Overledger and 25 other apps in seconds. The answer is yes. It's a 101, but boil it, mash it, stick it in stew. Ecology is the platform for collective climate action. I'm not saying I'm a fan of all this, but I'm pointing it out. So it's not like we just share something with you that has no meaning. Again, Quant will onboard more and more and more of these applications because, like it says, use 1,000 or thousands of source available triggers and actions across 2,500 plus apps and write custom code to integrate any app or API in seconds. Now, of course, this is Pipedream. Pipedream is 3 lines of code. Make and Zapier are 0 lines of code. Is Whippy 0 lines of code? I don't have the answer, but if anything, we're glad to bring it to you guys. And I think there's so much here that needs to be mentioned. So your closing thoughts in regard to everything, Jesse?
Oh, it's just complete insanity, man. Like, what's going on? Like, Quant's just the fact, like, one integration is connecting into like 2,500 apps, and it's just next level. Like, it's the operating system. It's that's why I say it's technically the new Microsoft with a router on top for the whole world. We're not going to get blockchain, the full adoption, proper adoption of blockchain and AI and interoperability between all the systems without Quant. So it's just like, that's why people are just shaking their heads. Like, we're so blessed to even know about this. It's a complete miracle that we even know about this, because if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't even know about what's going on, right? So yeah, it's just it's just such a big deal. You can't even put words into it. Like, I do videos about it, and I'm trying to make the videos under 4,000 hours because like, you could just talk about Quant forever and ever and make the video 4,000 hours. But no, it's an insanely big deal, because it's the door to the fourth industrial age, fourth industrial revolution. Quant is that door. We can't move from the third industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution right now without Quant. And Gilbert Verdon knew that very, very well. Working with the standardization government bodies, central banks, being a cybersecurity expert for the Bank of England, the UK Treasury, and so on, he knew that in order to have full adoption of blockchain and so on, you needed a solution like Quant. And it's just so next level. Having a token, QNT token, that's going to capture all of the utility of this operating system is just complete madness. Like I said, we're so blessed to know about this. It's complete insanity. But yeah, so thank you so much for having me, man. I really, really appreciate it so much. I appreciate the support very, very much, man. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone that are subscribing and supporting. Like, it's really, really blessed to have you guys. all your support. Thank you for having me, man.
You bet, Jesse. Glad to have you. And guys, you know the drill. As the saying goes, you listen to the entire outline, simply type in this key term into the comments, and that is the next Microsoft. And we'll know that you listened to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and Jesse, thanks again for tuning in. Know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We will see you on the next one.